A student named Run sprints away from homeschool while a staff member chases him down, sedating him and taking him away. A group of parents take the school's entrance exam for their children and are interviewed by the principal. All the parents give the same answer, saying that they want to better their children and only homeschool can do that. The students are all sitting in the lounge waiting for the results. Headmaster Yanni comes to lounge and calls for the students that applied for a scholarship program. She takes them to the principal's office where they are interviewed by the principal Ammon. Mr. Ammon asks the two students Maki and Tibet their reasons for applying to homeschool. After getting satisfied with their answers, he grants them admission to the school. Maki at her orphanage receives a letter from homeschool confirming her admission and goes to live at the boarding school. She is taken to her dorm and given her uniform, and a staff member tells her to come to the garden where a welcome party is underway. All students that have been selected are present and are given chocolate cookies as an appetizer. The students are introducing themselves to each other when Mr. Ammon and Headmaster Yanni arrive. Mr. Ammon welcomes the students as Gen 6 students of homeschool and tells the students about the rules of the school. Just then lights go out, and as panic sets in among the students, they began to fall unconscious as they had been drugged. The next day, the students wake up one by one and see that they are on a bus at an unknown location. They are taken to the actual building of homeschool where Mr. Ammon and Yanni are already waiting for them. Mr. Ammon welcomes them again and tells them that as per the first rule, they are not allowed to use their phones at homeschool. With that, Yanni collects their phones in a box and stores them. Over the course of the next few days, the students are one by one introduced to the strict rules of homeschool, with Mr. Ammon and Mrs. Yanni stating each time that the person who breaks these rules will be punished. The students are made to wake up early in the morning and go to bed early. They have to make their own food, but none of them can make anything. Since Maki is the only one who knows how to cook, she makes meals for everyone. A few days later, Mr. Ammon addresses the Gen 6 students, saying that the problems they are facing are not unique to them, and the students before them faced the same problem. All the students protest in return that they want to be returned home, and Mr. Ammon asks them what is the home to them, to which everyone falls silent. Mr. Ammon tells them that it is imperative that all students stay in the school's area and don't go into the forest. A group of students decide that they will not stay at homeschool and run off into the forest anyway. The rest of the students, including Maki, Tibet, and Penun, are sent to look for the escapee students. The escapee group doesn't make it far when they begin to fight with each other, and all but 3 of the students decide to return to homeschool as the forest seems never ending. The returning students meet up with Maki and the other and return to homeschool, but Headmaster Yanni sends them out again, saying that they must bring back everyone. As night falls, the 3 students began to quarrel among themselves again. However, suddenly they feel as they are being followed and hear distant screams of someone calling for help. The 2 boys run off, leaving the girl Jingjai alone in the forest. She tries to run after them but falls and ends up twisting her ankle. The 2 boys that ran off soon run into a staff member who takes them back to homeschool. Meanwhile, Maki and the group find Jingjai and help her get to her feet. Just then, the staff member comes to them and informs them that everyone has been found and now they must return to homeschool. Back at the school, Mr. Ammon lectures the student about them trying to escape and answers his own question from earlier, saying that home is a place of safety and now the students are home for each other. All the students leave to go to bed except Maki as she looks around the room. She sees a picture of Run framed on the wall, and it is revealed that Run is her older brother and Maki's real name is Rin. As she is looking at Run's picture, Mr. Ammon arrives and Maki asks him about Run, and Mr. Ammon says that he is his favorite student. Maki then asks Mr. Ammon where Run is now, but in response Mr. Ammon simply smiles. The next day, all Gen 6 students go outside in the morning for their morning exercise. Master Champ, the PE teacher, makes them run laps around the lake as a part of their exercise. The students complain that this is too much, but Master Champ says that is the easiest exercise. The students get back to the common room for breakfast and Master Phobin serves their meals. The food is extraordinarily good, but when the students ask for more, Master Phobin answers that everyone will receive only one plate at a time. Later that day, Mr. Ammon introduces the students to all the teachers at home school and announces that there will be no classes for the first week. Instead of the classes, the students are given an assignment to keep a pet duck. However, the person who fails to take care of their duck will be punished severely. Each of the students is given a duckling, and soon all the students gather up to take care of the ducks. Some of the students build a shelter for the duck. Meanwhile, Maki, along with Penhung, finds food for the ducklings. 3 students out of those that are building the shelter are still complacent and refuse to work for themselves while their friends do all the hard work. After some time, Maki and the other get to the duck houses with the duck feed. Penhung gives the ducks water and goes to grab the feed for the duck. 2 of the complacent students decide to prank Penhung and trip him on purpose, making him fall. After that, they pretend to help Penhung with picking up the feed, but instead bully him more. This causes Penhung to have a panic attack. A fight breaks out among the students, but Mrs. Yanni stops them and brings them inside for lunch. The bread at lunch is stale, and when the students ask Master Phobin for new food, he refuses again. After lunch, the students return to the ducklings, and Penhung names his duckling Baby Duck. The other students name their ducklings too. A few days pass, and Mr. Ammon asks the students what they have learned from the ducks, but when he doesn't receive an answer, he says that the students need to spend more time with the ducks to learn their lesson. The students protest that they see no point in taking care of these ducks, and Mr. Ammon in response says that whoever takes care of their ducks to a specific day will be given a great prize. This excites the students, and they decide to work hard again. But the 2 boys who bullied Penhung earlier still don't want to take care of their ducks and go to Penhung and bully him into taking care of their ducks as well. Meanwhile, Jingjai also requests the help of her friends as her leg still hurts. At night, there is a storm and Penhung brings his and the other 2 boys' ducks inside to prevent them from getting sick in the rain. The next day, 2 other boys go to the duck house and find that it was destroyed completely by the storm and the ducks are all missing. The students set out to find their ducks, as if the ducks die they will be punished. After a long day of searching, they only manage to find 1 duckling, but the rest are still missing. They go to Penhung to ask for his help in finding the duckling, and he agrees. Penhung manages to find all the ducklings and brings them to the duck house by night. However, the duck house is still broken, and the students decide to go out into the forest to look for materials to rebuild it. Maki and the group, while looking for materials, come across an old temple of sorts that is guarded by wire. They want to explore the place, but just as Maki is about to climb inside, Master Prasad arrives there and takes them back to home school. At night, Hugo and Jingjai go outside to have a talk about their relationship. As they are talking, Jingjai sees that one of the ducklings has died. They check whose duck it is, and it turns out to be Hugo's duck. Mr. Ammon calls all the students to the meeting room in the middle of the night. All the students are upset why he has called them so late. Mr. Ammon announces that Penhung's duckling has died, and he will be punished for it. Everyone, including Penhung, argue that the duckling is not his, but Mr. Ammon sends Penhung away anyway. The next morning, the students are served breakfast, which according to Mrs. Yanni has a special ingredient. To the horror of the students, the meat is of their ducklings. The students ask Headmaster Yanni why their ducklings were killed, and the headmaster responds saying that it is a punishment for the students. The headmaster announces that today is the first day of the term and all students must be in the class on time. The students rush outside to see whether their ducklings are actually gone, and the ducklings are nowhere to be found. The students decide not to take their classes as protest for killing their ducklings. They are sitting outside when Master Prasad comes to them asking why they aren't in class yet. The students say that they won't come to class and run off. The students barely make it down the hallway where Master Phobin stops them and Master Prasat takes them back to class. Master Prasat locks the class from inside to prevent anyone from leaving and begins teaching. The first lesson of the students is to write down a confession of a mistake they have made since coming to home school. Master Prasat says that nobody will leave the classroom until everyone has finished this assignment. The next day, Maki wakes up after having a dream about her brother Run. Seeing that they are late for their morning exercise, Maki wakes up the rest of the girls, but some of them refuse to go. They rush to Master Champ where some of the boys are already there. Master Champ makes the students run around the lake again, and the remaining students also show up. However, as they are later, Master Champ makes them sit and watch their friends run. The students get back for breakfast, but the food is burnt and not cooked properly. They complain to the headmaster, but she replies that it is their punishment that they must eat it as is. Later, Maki and another girl, White, go to the headmaster and ask her how Penhung is doing and if they can visit him. Mrs. Yani, the headmaster, replies that he is being treated and they can visit Penhung after their classes. In the next class, the students are studying under Master Dilak, who is teaching them math. The students are given an answer sheet which they have to fill, and if any one student fails to answer the questions, all of the students have to do more questions. The students are fed up with this harsh treatment, but do as they're told. Meanwhile, in the detention room, Master Phobin gives Penhung a pill to calm down as he is having a panic attack. Master Phobin leaves and Penhung repeatedly says that he doesn't want to be locked up in there. It is revealed that Penhung came to homeschool for this very reason, and the pill was given by Mr. Ammon to Penhung to calm him down. Maki and White come to see Penhung in the detention room and bring him something to eat. They talk about Penhung's duck, but he says that the duck that died didn't belong to any of the students. Maki questions whether the duck was placed there by the masters, and White says that these punishments are too extreme. Maki and White to the master to ask whether the duck was their doing, and the masters do not give any answers. At night, White, Maki, and two other students are sitting outside talking about why they are being punished. White says that some adults just like to lie and torture kids, and that she came to homeschool because of one such adult, her aunt. Maki says that it is possible that a duck did die, but it didn't belong to Penhung but someone else. As they are sitting there brainstorming all the possible answers, Mr. Ammon is sitting in the balcony watching them while smiling. At dinner, Master Phobin brings an extra plate to Jingjai and tells her that from now on it is her duty to give food to Penhung. The next day, all the students are being punished by Master Champ with extra push-ups. Master Champ leave after ordering for even more push-ups, and Hugo gets up saying that this is getting out of hand. Maki speaks up saying that this is only happening because someone framed Penhung. All the students gather around Hugo and Jingjai and make them confess what they saw. At night, Hugo tells Mr. Ammon that Penhung's duck did not die and his did, so he swapped the name tags. Mr. Ammon says that he knew it already. He then gives the students a lecture about honesty and says that all punishments will be stopped now. Also Ammon says that all the ducklings are still alive and the dead duck didn't belong to any of the students. It was simply a test. Penhung is released and the ducks are returned to the students. Penhung is attending to the ducks when Hugo and Jingjai come to him to apologize for their mistake, and Penhung forgives them. They are called to the meeting room where Mr. Ammon comes along with all the masters and announces Maki as the student president of Gen 6. Mr. Ammon calls Maki into his office to guide her on her duties as class president and tells her that she must help all the masters establish discipline. Maki asks Mr. Ammon why he chose her, and he replies that she reminds him of someone. Maki asks to meet this person, and Mr. Ammon says that one day she'll get to meet him. At night, Mr. Ammon calls all the students to the meeting room and announces that on the weekend one person will get to go home, but the students have to choose themselves who they think should go home first. The next day, in Master Preporn's class, all the students are given a task to write a letter to their parents about their school life. Master Preporn says that if any person does not want to write a letter, they are allowed to leave. A few boys start play fighting while others write their letters. Fuji, a girl, starts to write her letter but remembers how her father treated her before sending her to home school and stops writing. Later, the students are all sitting in a common room and discussing who should get to go home. Every student gives their reason while Fong, a girl, wants to go home because she feels sick and going home will make her feel better. At night, in the boys' dorm room, Mek asks his friends who they will vote for, and they all say that they won't vote for him. Jean, another boy, says that whoever votes for him will get 1 million baht each from him. Penhung says that it's cheating to bribe others for his own benefit, but Jean says that it's not wrong as he just wants to go home. One of the boys argues that the money he's offering is completely useless as long as they're in home school and they'll have to wait 3 years before they can use it. The next day, Mek goes to the girls and offers to help them for the next entire year if they vote for him. Mek's twin Mork comes there too and makes fun of him for trying to get votes this way as he doesn't have 1 million baht to offer like Jean. White says that she'll vote for the person who deserves to go home like Penhung as he has been through a lot. Later, she is confronted by Jean with the same offer of 1 million baht but declines. After that, some students are in the garden cleaning it, when Fong starts to have a headache. She sits down for a little while but gets back up to help her fellow students. As she's sweeping the garden, she faints and the rest of the students carry her to the infirmary. The students leave Fong in the infirmary and go back to the garden, and Fong gets up immediately. She isn't sick but wants to go home, so pretends like it to gain sympathy. The next day, Fong goes to the kitchen where Penhung and Hugo are making breakfast. She starts cutting lettuce but deliberately cuts herself and acts as if was an accident. Crying, she says that she wants to go home to her mother. Fuji, standing outside the kitchen, sees Fong's act and is angered by it. She confronts Fong about her act, but Fong denies it. Later, the students are studying in the common room when Biwa, a friend of Fong, asks if they have seen Fong. White answers that she went to the kitchen, and when Biwa goes there, she finds Fong on the floor unconscious. At night, Fong wakes up in the infirmary with Master Preporn by her side. Mrs. Preporn tells her that if she has something on her mind, she can share with the masters, and Fong begins to cry that she wants to go home. The next day, Mrs. Yanni, the headmaster, announces that the person with the most votes is Fong and she'll get to go home. Fuji gets up from her chair saying that the vote is void as Fong lied about her sickness and her injuries were all inflicted by herself. Fong says that Fuji is lying, and they argue for a while, but then Mr. Ammon comes to the meeting room. He asks Fong whether she still insists that she is not lying, and then show camera recordings of Fong hurting herself. Mr. Ammon says that due to this no one gets to go home as they aren't ready yet and leaves. Fong begins to cry as all the students leave one by one, and no one believes her, not even Biwa, her best friend. At the girls' dorm, Fong tries to apologize to everyone asking why they are treating her like this, but they all scold her for lying and Feng runs out of the dorm crying. Mackie and White get to the dorm and tell the girls that they shouldn't have done that to Fong and given her a chance to apologize. They go out and start searching for Fong as she ran off and can't be found anywhere. They go outside but still can't find her anywhere. Mackie suggests telling the masters about this. Just then, White sees Fong standing on the balcony as if she's about to jump. The students all gather around Fong to stop her from jumping off the balcony. Tibet talks Fong out of her trance and assures her that no one hates her and she doesn't have to hurt herself. She begins to cry but comes back from the balcony. Fong goes back inside to Bill to apologize for breaking her trust, but Bill ignores her and leaves. Fong begins to cry, but Mackie tells her to wait a little. Bill will forgive her after some time. All students are called to the meeting room by Mrs. Yanni, and she announces that the next day an exam will be held. The students protest, saying that they have barely studied anything since the term began, and passing an exam will be nearly impossible for them. The headmaster assures them that it will be an exam of their knowledge and what they have learnt at home school. The next day, Mr. Ammon comes to the meeting room and tells them that the student who passes all 3 rounds of the examination will be allowed to use their phone in school. Mr. Ammon also says that the students are allowed to use any method in order to pass the exam, and a smug look appears on Hugo's face. He tells them that if they fail, they should not be upset as only one student has ever managed to pass all 3 exams. Mackie asks the name of that student, and Mr. Ammon reveals that it was Run. The students are allowed to choose which subject they want to take their exams in which they are confident. Mackie, Tibet, and Feng take the English exam. White, Penhung, Hugo, and Jingjai take the mathematics exam. Nai, Fuji, and Mork take the history exam. Mek and Jean take the physical exam, and Biwa takes the agricultural exam. All students start their exam at the same time, and Mr. Ammon wishes the students best of luck. Hugo and Jingjai have only chosen mathematics to copy from Penhung, as he is extremely good at it. Jingjai gets into an argument with White, but in the end they work together to solve their questions. Mackie, Tibet, and Feng work together to solve the exam and manage to pass. Meanwhile, in the history exam, only Nai manages to pass while the rest fail. Both Mek and Jean fail the physical education exam, and Bill fails her exam as well. All the students that have passed go to Master Preporn's class. In the next exam, all the students that passed the first round are made to compete with each other, while those who failed sit in the meeting room and watch them. The next exam is a game of musical chairs, and Master Preporn instructs that a student may do anything to secure a chair for themselves. Hugo immediately smiles and asks whether violence is allowed, and Master Preporn says that everything is allowed. The students who failed the first exam are watching them and start to make bets who will be disqualified first. Bira thinks that the boys will win, and Fuji says the girls will win. Jean says that Feng will be the first to be eliminated, while Mek thinks it will be either Hugo or Jingjai. On the other hand, Mork thinks that Penhung will be eliminated first. The exam starts, and all the students rush to secure a seat. Tibet pushes Hugo of the way, and White pushes Jingjai. Everyone except Hugo and Jingjai get seated, but one chair remains. Hugo rushes to the chair and tells Jingjai to steal Feng's chair. Jingjai pushes Feng out of her chair and sits in it. White get angry with Jingjai due to her behavior, and they began to yell at each other. White calls Jingjai heartless, and Jingjai replies that she just followed the rules. They start to get loud, which causes Penhung to have a panic attack. They are still fighting when Tibet gets up from his seat all of a sudden. This causes the fight to stop. Master Preporn watches closely, but doesn't interfere with the students. Tibet says that if the chairs are causing them so much of a problem, they should just destroy the chairs. Saying this, he picks up his chair and smashes it into the ground, causing it to break. The fight between the students escalates to physical contact. White fights with Jingjai, while Tibet and Nai fight with Hugo. Penhung has a panic attack, while Feng tries to calm him down in vain. Mackie yells at them all to stop fighting, and that this is not helping them. Tibet asks what does Mackie suggest, and she says they should start over and play fair only. They ask Master Preporn if they can start over again, and she allows them to start over. They start over, and when Master Preporn starts the exam, Tibet and Nai jump on Hugo to hold him down. White pulls Jingjai back. Meanwhile, Mackie, Penhung, and Feng all take their seats. The failed students are watching them and cheering on Mackie and her friends. Just then, Headmaster Yanni arrives there and asks them whether they know why they failed their exams. They all give their answers, but Mrs. Yanni says they're all wrong and they must figure out why they all failed. Meanwhile, at the exam, every student takes their seats. Jingjai pushes Mackie off and takes her seat, but Penhung pushes her off and Mackie takes her seat back. Jingjai and Hugo began to fight for the last seat, but as they are fighting, the time ends and they both fail the exam. Master Preporn tells the students to remove all the seats except one. The students ask if only one person can pass this round, but Master Preporn says that more than one person can pass too. As soon as the round starts, Tibet and Nai run to the chair, but Mackie stops them. She says that Master did not tell them to sit on the chair just to sit, so Maki sits on the ground. They all follow Maki, and they all pass the exam. The last round of the exam is held by the principal, Mr. Ammon himself. They all go to Mr. Almon's office where he gives them the next and final task. He says that he will ask them one single question and they have to find its answer. The person who answers correctly will be given the phone to contact their family. Mr. Ammon hands the students a blank sheet of paper. The students ask what they should do with a blank sheet, and Mr. Ammon replies that it is their task to find out that exactly. They have 1 hour to find the answer. They may use any way to find it, but they only have one chance to answer. If they answer incorrectly, they will be immediately disqualified. The students leave Mr. Ammon's office and start thinking about the answer. Nai says that they should work on it separately, as in any case only one person will get the prize. They all agree and start trying to find the answer. They all try doing different things, wetting the paper, freezing the paper, and even heating it up, but cannot find anything on the paper. They get called into Mr. Ammon's office, and he asks them what their answer is. Penhung says the answer is nothing, as if there is nothing. No matter how hard they try to find it, they can't. Master Ammon calls his answer wrong and disqualifies him while giving the rest of the students 1 more hour to find the answer to the blank sheet. The students go outside by the lake and start thinking about the answers. They ask each other why they want the prize and who they're going to call. Maki says that she doesn't want to call anyone. She only wants to find out what Master Ammon is up to. Nai wants to call his father, and White wants to call the police on homeschool to get out of there. Tibet says that he wants to call his mother as she is sick, and he wants to know how she's doing. They go back to the dorm to think of ideas and realize that the only one who has the answer to the blank sheet is Master Ammon himself. They decide to hand in the empty sheets and let the master answer his own question. Meanwhile, Mrs. Yanni goes to the failed students and asks them if they have found the reason for their failure. They don't answer, and then Mrs. Yanni tells them that the reason for their failure was their selfishness and greed for personal gain. On the other hand, the 4 students, Maki, White, Nai, and Tibet, are in Master Ammon's office ready to give him the answer. They give him the blank sheets and tell him that the answer depends on what he wants to teach them. He congratulates them on finding the correct answer together and asks who they want to receive the reward. Maki suggests that they vote the person who should receive the reward. They all vote for Tibet, but when Master Ammon hands Tibet the phone, he refuses it, saying that if his friends cannot have the reward, he doesn't want it either. At night, Master Preporn comes to Mr. Ammon's office to ask him about the treatment of Run and warns him that he could end up killing Run if he continues. Mr. Ammon continues with the treatment anyway. Meanwhile, the 4 students are discussing their day. White says that it was a wasted opportunity and they didn't gain anything from it, but Maki says they received a great reward, the reward of friendship. Maki looks out the window and sees Master Prasat and Preporn head off into the forest. She follows after them, but Nai stops her. On the other hand, Master Ammon goes to Run's room. Run is tied to a chair to stop him from escaping. Master Ammon tells him about the new students of Gen 6 and tells him how Maki reminds him of Run. He covers Run's face with a bag, saying that he will cure Run.